So for us to comprehend how stress and emotions work, we need to understand how the nervous system works, and the parts of the nervous system. So basically, your nervous system is just your spine, your brain, and all the muscles and nerves. So what happens is whenever we go through a stressful situation, our body triggers either our fight or flight response or our rest and digest. So these two work together hand in hand. So your fight or flight response is basically like the gas pedal in a car. So as soon as you're going through that stressful situation, you trigger that fight or flight response, and that basically makes your heart pump faster, your blood vessels dilate, your lung expands, and it gives you that burst of energy so you can either fight or flee the situation. And that's what makes muscles tense up. So that's how emotions kick in when we're relating it to the musculoskeletal system. Whereas your rest and digest system is once you've gone through that stressful situation, the body will switch from that fight or flight response to your rest and digest, and it will calm your body down. And that's when you calm down and you reset again.
Sounds fascinating. It doesn't always work that way.
No.
And that's what we're keen to explore with you more around what happens when that's out of sync and people are still feeling it in their body even when the stress is gone, and they're still carrying that tension in their muscles, and they're not able to access that rest and recover. Is that what it was? Rest and recover?
Rest and digest.
Rest and digest.
Yeah.
So being able to think about, how we often, and I'm sure you see it in your practice, carry that tension still in the body, even though the stress is gone and the stress response is settled, but we're still carrying it, so to speak.
Okay, yep. So which one did you want me to address again? Sorry.
Yeah, so just being able to think about, when people come in to your practice and they're still carrying the tension in their body from whatever stresses that they've been exposed to.
Do you see that much? Where
I
people
do.
can't move from one phase to the other phase?
So when they're
they
stuck
get
in chronic.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the rest and digest, as we mentioned. So normally once we've gone through that stressful situation, your rest and digest will kick in. The problem is if it doesn't kick in, you end up in that fight or flight mode, basically, or
Permanently.
that system is it's on, and we can't switch off. But the problem is once we're in that fight or flight response, we get that extra production of adrenaline and cortisol. Now, adrenaline and cortisol are our stress hormones, so they are important. However, they will actually make the brain switch on your muscles, like basically stiffen your muscles to get you ready to fight or flee. And the problem is once they don't switch off, you get that constant release of adrenaline and cortisol. And that's when you develop that chronic pain because our body is not used to that extra production. It's only used to a small amount and then switch off and go back to rest and digest. And that's how we end up in chronic pain, and we kind of switch off from or switch from both systems.
So it's like one of the systems stays on.
It stays on.
And the body's always preparing for battle. So
we
to
do
speak.
want it, we do want it on because that's the way we protect ourselves, but not for a long period of time because our muscles are not used to that, tightening and stiffening because it does reduce our blood flow to the muscles, and that's when we start developing chronic pain.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. It makes a lot of sense. I'm getting that visual in my head. And Sammy, I'm wondering, as you're listening, from your perspective as an osteopath, do you see these sort of presentations and do you see emotions playing out in physical ways in your work?
Yeah, definitely. Me as an osteopath, part of my training is to obviously, osteopathy itself is a system of medicine. And so the philosophy of osteopathy is what really intrigued me about it. And part of the philosophy is that the body's a unit of, the person is a unit of body, mind and spirit. So there's that spiritual aspect to it too. Also, we really look at the body's ability to regulate. And so as an osteopath, I'm not really fixing anything. When somebody comes to see me, I just move things out of the way and the body regulates itself. And so what we're trying to do is help the body find its own regulatory mechanisms. And just on what Dora touched on, she's correct that of those two systems of play, the fight or flight and then the rest and digest system. So you got your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system kind of come into play. The body eventually will regulate for trauma and for I guess emotional trauma or some kind of stress. And that's what we tend to see in the clinic. We see that regulation, and that regulation could be hypertonic muscles, it could be injury, it could be also things like a really light trigger for injury. So somebody will come in and say, I just bent over and picked up a pen and I hurt my back, right? And that's, you think about it, well, that's unusual, I was just picking up a pen. But they've become so heightened. So think of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mechanism, as a volume knob, where you're turning up the volume knob. And then so when people have these things that happen in their life and they come to see someone like me or like Dora, they're coming to us for seemingly musculoskeletal issues, but there's a lot of underlying emotional stress, trauma, and we've got to really look into that. We've got to really dig deep into our history taking and make sure that we do see it a lot, and we just happen to be the people that people are seeking us out because there's a physical manifestation to that, and that plays out. So think of it as like layers of injury. It's not just physical. There are layers on top of that, and then you kind of got to peel it away like an onion. It's not, you can't just kind of go straight to it. So that's how we see it in the clinic. And yeah, part of my training as an osteopath is to try and recognise that. It's part of my kind of philosophy. And then we're also looking at structure and function and how the body kind of regulates things. Nervous system's important. Blood flow is a really important one too. And so yeah, that's how we see that in the clinic. We see it through tension, muscle tightness, pains, aches, but really a good therapist will dig deeper and look for those things that could be slowing down recovery, and that's how we usually see it. So an injury that seemingly is really recoverable just takes a lot longer. Pain spreads to other parts of the body. You get things like, you have diagnosis now like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and so forth. Whilst they are real things, I think we're really underdoing the emotional stress side of that. We kind of make these diagnoses and we hand out medication for it. But really we need to look more into the neuro-emotional connection between those things.
What are your thoughts on that, Dora?
100%.
Yeah.
That's what makes a good practitioner stand out. When you can differentiate between the emotional stress and the physical symptoms, that makes your patients feel validated and understood, and that's gold.
Do you think there's an element of presenting to a chiro or an osteo or someone who looks at you physically, because sometimes that's the only thing we can metabolize? Like, we can accept that maybe there is something wrong with us physically and go and get help for that, but the emotional and mental stuff is the stuff we push aside, but we carry it anyway. Is that something that's very clear to you when somebody walks into your door? Like, when someone comes to see you, can you spot kind of very quickly that there's more going on to the story?
When you're questioning through case history, that's when you realize that something is happening.
Yeah.
What they're telling you and the symptoms they're presenting with is not matching.
Yeah.
They've done every test under the sun.
Yeah.
It's not like we didn't address the red flags. We have ruled out the red flags. Sorry, that's how you can tell. And as soon as you touch, you feel it. You can. Would you agree with me, Sammy? As soon as you touch the muscles, you can tell something is not right. It's not an injury.
Yeah.
It's not just overuse.
Yeah.
It's something deeper happening than just the physical muscle tightness.